What's going on, guys? It is Pete Nova here with the Face Off Sports Network. I'm back with a little bit of a different episode today. I do have a special guest here. It's Josiah Gray from the Washington Nationals, one-time All-Star in 2023, two-time Roberto Clemente nominee, award winner, and happy to have him on. What's going on, man? How you doing?
Appreciate you having me. All is good. All is well down here in sunny Florida. Enjoying the rehab life, but all is good and looking forward to spring training.
Yeah. I was gonna say. I mean, I know Washington's probably much colder this time of year, but you're lucky enough to, you're like you guys are like snowbirds, right? You guys flock down for the warm weather
Yeah,
in the winter time, so you guys got a little bit lucky. How were the holidays? Did you spend it with family? Did you lay low or?
yeah. Spending with family. I'm from right outside the New York City area, so I went up there for a few days because my birthday is the 21st.
Oh, nice.
Saw some family and friends, and then went up to my fiance's. She's right outside Worcester, Massachusetts.
Okay.
So we were there for Christmas Eve, and had a great time. And then we came back a few days later. But holidays were great. New Year's was awesome. We spent it down here as well. So now we're just getting ready
I
for
mean,
spring.
normally, this is more of a, fantasy football/football podcast. Obviously, we do a little bit of baseball here and there, a little bit of basketball as well. We connected right through fantasy football and, figured I'd, ask if you wanted to jump on and we'll start with a little bit of some football questions and then we'll just kind of dig a little bit deep into, how things are going on your side with baseball and some other questions regarding that. To kind of start the conversation off, what NFL player, if there was, is there anybody that comes to mind that you would like to play with, whether it's maybe adding them to the bullpen, adding them to the starting rotation, adding them to the lineup, or just play, a pickup game, basketball, football in general? Is there any player that comes to mind to you?
Of course, it would be Lamar Jackson. Everyone that knows me knows I'm a diehard Ravens fan and diehard Lamar Jackson fan, and I've gotten to go to a bunch of games over the last few years, and just watching him play is one of the best experiences. And it'd be really cool to see him suit up with us with the Nationals, and obviously if I could figure out something on the football field as well, that'd be cool. But yeah, it'd have to be him.
Yeah, I feel like he, with his speed, right? Like he probably would make for maybe a good center fielder, right?
Yeah.
He's probably got some pretty good range. Did you play football or anything else outside of baseball growing up?
Honestly, no. I was all baseball growing up. That was the one sport I always wanted to play. One of my brothers tried football, didn't really like it, but we were a baseball family, and thank God that we were, because I couldn't see myself playing any other sport.
How long have you been playing fantasy football? Has it been, did you just recently get into it? Have you been doing it for years?
Yeah. Honestly, this is my second year. So last year, we were on the plane flying somewhere, and a bunch of the guys on the team were like, "Hey, we're getting the fantasy league back. Do you want to play?" And I was like, "No," just because I know how much time I would need to devote. And then they were like, "Hey, you can partner with one of our video guys, and you guys can split a team, co-manage it, and it'd be less on your plate, and we'd have a full league, and we can all have fun with it." So I was like, "All right, you know what? I'll do it." And I wasn't invested at all, like going into the draft, anything like that. I thought we had a solid team. We picked like Aaron Rodgers, Justin Fields, like shooting for upside, and
Yeah.
the team crumbled like week after week.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is like depressing. We finished second to last. And then they were like, "Hey, do you want to come play again this year?" And obviously I was doing most of my rehab in DC, and my video partner, my team partner, was like, "Hey, like, they're making sure we want to come back." And I was like, "Let's do it." So friggin' put my head in the books and followed as many people as I could to just research the best team that we could get. And we ended up finishing in second.
Nice.
So it's like a quick turnaround, and you see how much, if you put in more work, it kind of helps in your favor. But this year was a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to, next year and maybe joining like a home league with buddies and just having fun with it, honestly.
Being that you're doing the rehab too, I'm sure it's a nice escape. I mean, just like sports are for the casual fan, it's a nice escape, and I'm sure finishing second to last the year before didn't really put a good taste in your mouth being a competitor too. So
Of course.
it's definitely cool to see, and yeah, you definitely should join a home league. That would be pretty cool. Get in with
Yeah.
some of your buddies that you grew up with. So when we think about home leagues in fantasy football, there's a lot of trash talking, right? Because it's guys that you grew up with, and guys feel maybe more comfortable to say certain things that maybe they wouldn't say to people they work with. But is there anybody on the team that you can think of that's like the biggest trash talker in the group chat? Like there's always that one guy in fantasy football leagues, and maybe I'm one of those guys, but that everybody wants to be. Nobody, like, it's the last guy anybody wants to see win it. Is there anybody that comes to mind to you?
There's a few people. There was one team that had Alex Call and Drew Millis.
Mm,
Alex Call's an outfielder, Drew Millis is a catcher. And they just had it out for us. We had it out for them because they were always pulling off these crazy trades. And a lot of the times we just would say no, or we'd think about it and they'd come back and be like, you guys are crazy. Like, you're winning this deal. And there was like a point where we just like said no, like we're good. And they kind of were like, you guys don't have the firepower to, win it all. I guess we didn't, but second place is a very good consolation in the league that we're in. So they're probably number one. And then just everyone else, like friendly banter, like,
sure.
guys in the league. Pat Corbin won the league
Oh, did it? Is
past
that
two
who you
years.
is that who you lost to,
Who I
or?
lost to.
Mm,
James Woods in the league. Joey Gallo was in it. Trevor Williams, Kyle Finnegan. List goes on. But there's always friendly banter, just week to week, and everyone's, wants their team to win. But it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, honestly.
there's always going to be guys that are trying to convince you that the trade makes the most sense, and then you feel like it's like a dirty car salesman, right? Where they're
Yeah.
just trying to get you, and yeah, I mean that just makes for more enjoyment, right? Especially when you can stick it to those guys.
Uh,
And then up beating them. Switching over to gears and talking baseball a little bit. Obviously, you suffered Tommy John, and you went through Tommy John surgery. How is the rehab going? How confident do you feel throwing right now?
Rehab's been going well. It's gone as smoothly as it could be up to this point. I'll be, 6 months post-op in a few weeks. So then I'll start, my throwing program and start building up. But right now, everything feels great. I've had pretty much a normal off season, just no throwing.
Sure.
So strength has been great. Staying mobile, staying athletic, and things have progressed pretty well. To this point, there have been no setbacks. So with that being said, I'm looking forward to spring training and just continuing to just get months and weeks and days under my belt because in any rehab process, especially Tommy John. You kind of just have to continue to stack those days in a row and understand there's going to be good days and bad. But there's been a majority of good more so than bad. And I'm just hoping that continues and we can see what the year holds when it's all said and done.
And I guess for those that don't know, that aren't familiar with the process with Tommy John, I mean, when you initially toured, did they get you in quickly? I mean, I know sometimes teams try to have guys maybe rehab through it before getting surgery, and then maybe put it off. But did they have you go in pretty quickly? And how long is the process normally for guys that get the surgery?
Yeah, so the best way I can explain it was when my injury first got diagnosed, it was a flexor strain. So kind of the muscles that protect your UCL. So that happened early in April, and we rehabbed that for 2 months, did a phenomenal job, the Nationals, and everything was, trending upwards. So went out on my rehab assignments feeling great. Had a 1 in low A, 2 in double A, and then had 2 in AAA. So my second to last rehab start in AAA felt great. Felt like I was finally getting back to who I was as a pitcher. And then my last rehab start from, the second inning on, I knew something was off. It was just couldn't turn a breaking ball. And I was like, man, this doesn't feel right. I don't know what it is, but it just doesn't feel like me.
Yeah.
Um, and then the next day we got the MRI, sort of inconclusive, but we had an idea what was going on, sought out a second opinion, and then that pretty much confirmed it. And then after the All-Star break, we got the surgery and, you know, pretty much started the rehab after that. So, yeah, I would say we got it done quickly, but
Sure.
it's more so you want to seek out the second opinions, the third opinions, just to ensure you're not making a hasty move and every doctor seeing the same thing. But the Nationals took, the utmost care of me. They still do, which I'm thankful for. And it's been, a smooth road from even, April on. They've just kept my best interest. And it's, I'm looking forward to making an impact this year and seeing what we can do, towards the later half of the year.
You hear a lot about guys that get Tommy John, and especially as pitchers, right? Like they end up coming back stronger too. And they end up throwing harder. It's kind of like with ACLs, right? Like it used to be a death sentence for running backs in the NFL, but with with new information and new ways to go about, getting therapy and surgery and all that, a lot of guys end up coming back stronger, though, especially in football, it usually takes an extra year for the ACL. So it sounds like things are going well, which is awesome. When it comes to your routine in general, I mean, there are certain guys that, maybe, they eat Chipotle, every day, like, they have a pre-game meal that they eat religiously. Now, being on the road, maybe that's a little bit harder, right? Because there's so
Of
many
course.
games and you travel so much. But is there something that you can think of, maybe as a young guy growing up before you hit the majors, maybe in the minors? Is there something that you've always looked at from a meal standpoint? And then is there like a playlist that you do to get in the zone as well?
Of course. So when I was, coming up in the minor leagues, I just was like, whatever they're having in the clubhouse, I'm going to have. So
Yeah.
whatever the spread was before the game, I'm going to enjoy it. And for music standpoint, I was always just rap. I would put a lot of playlists together and just listen to that, cycle through it. And then it pretty much stayed with me as I got to the big leagues, just eating whatever's available in the clubhouse. There's
Yeah.
always plenty of options, plenty of good food. And then the music was just whatever I was feeling that day, just to get me in the zone, around, let's say it was a 7 o'clock game, around 4:30, I'm putting my headphones on and just locking into that zone. So that's what I really enjoyed. It's been a while since I've, pitched, but it's always fun, getting to your day that you get to go out there and prove your ability and get the team closer to a win. So I miss those days, and I'm looking forward to the days ahead because it's what I love to do.
I remember in the NFL, they came out with a report that, I think the Denver Broncos, like they were eating like 500 Uncrustables as a team.
I saw that.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's certain things like, I know, like when you're growing up, like playing Pop Warner football, like guys, you'd eat like the oranges at halftime and certain things to give you like a quick boost of energy or something like that. Do you
Yeah.
do anything like that? I mean, I think Jose Alvarado, I think he drinks like an espresso, like in the bullpen or something like that. And then there's obviously the Jojo Romero where he smashes like a Red Bull and
Yeah,
it off his elbow or something. But
of
is there
course.
anything specific though, or that you can think of, or?
For me, early in my big league career, I'd drink a few Red Bulls before getting my day started. But as the years went on, honestly, I didn't really have anything like superstitious like that. It was kind of just enjoying like the clubhouse vibe that day. Scroll on Twitter a good bit, scroll on Instagram, like things just to pass time.
Sure.
Always, looking up my scouting reports, looking at video, which is the big thing. And then just thinking of game plans and going out there and executing that game plan to the best that we could. But no, there wasn't really anything I was like, I have to do this today,
Yeah.
in terms of like energy drink or eating wise, or it was just whatever felt good that day. A lot of times I would go out on the field and actually just walk around, for 30 minutes, just clear my head before I pitched. And I always enjoyed that just because I would get to listen to, new music or just see how the weather was that day, get a little stretch in, and that always felt good for that day.
Yeah, I can't imagine drinking a Red Bull before pitching, like, getting those jitters, like, I feel like it'd be hard to kinda settle down,
Yeah,
especially as a pitcher too,
they
but
naturally come.
yeah,
The jitters naturally come. It's just a matter of, do you want extra, or if you're feeling a little sluggish that day, maybe you just need a pick me up of a
yep.
Red Bull or some C4 powder just to kind of get the juices flowing, and then as the game gets on and you get close to game time, the adrenaline naturally just comes.
Yeah, I know growing up, I played 1 year in college for football, and I know guys we would do like the walk up, right, to get to the field as a team, and we would crack smelling salts and kind of pass them down the line. Do guys do stuff like that
Oh
or
yeah,
anything like that?
that's in the clubhouse. That's in the dugout. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not going to name names, but
No,
yeah,
yeah, of
like
course.
guys do it, and it's part of the routine. You could think of, I'm sure football players do, you know, everything and anything under the sun to make sure they're ready for game day. Pretty much everything the same with baseball players. We play 162 games from end of March to early October, and then obviously if you're in the playoffs till early November, and you're never going to feel 100%, as the season gets going. So a lot of guys will, do what they can to feel good that day and get through the game and get through the season.
Yeah. So we were talking before we jumped on, and you referenced that you were engaged. Do you guys have a date set up, and is the whole team coming, or is it going to be a smaller get together?
No date set, but yeah, there'll definitely be some nice guys there. Some of my former Dodgers teammates, I'm sure will show up as well.
Nice.
But we enjoy like getting together with old friends, and we enjoy a good party. So it'll be a lot of fun, and we'll definitely throw a good one.
Earlier on in your career, you played shortstop and pitcher, right? And the National League went to a got rid of the pitcher hitting, right? And now they've moved to a DH format. You've been in the National League your entire career. Do you ever miss actually going up to the plate and hitting, or are you relieved that you don't have that responsibility anymore?
I do not miss it one bit. I was a hitter my whole life, like you said, played shortstop, and truly enjoyed the process of hitting.
Yep.
In college, my first 2 years, when I was, playing shortstop and everything like that, I really was a gym rat in terms of just figuring out my swing. But unfortunately, it never came to fruition. Became a pitcher only, and got drafted as that. But when I got to the big leagues, obviously pitchers were hitting. And my debut, I faced Alex Wood. That was extremely uncomfortable. And then, I get traded over the Nationals. I faced Charlie Morton, Zach Wheeler, just to name a few names. And I'm like, this isn't comfortable. I'm up there trying to bunt. You got the fingers, you're not
Yeah.
trying to mess them up. And when the year ended, a lot of us were just like, all right, let's see if this DH thing can stick. And it's been great for the game. It creates 30 more or 15 more jobs for guys that are deserving. And we don't have to worry about, putting a bunt down or, getting an RBI, because we can just focus on what we're doing. So I don't miss it. Like, I still enjoy watching guys do it,
Sure.
but personally, I don't miss it because I think it's really hard. And especially at the big league level, when, you're a pitcher, it's even harder.
DeGrom was pretty solid at hitting too. Or some some
Mhm.
some pitchers, but I'm sure, like you said, I mean, laying down a bunt and worrying about your fingers it's just, I'm sure it's not comfortable to be honest. And honestly, it keeps pitchers in the game longer, right? Because they don't have to get substituted out for a pinch hitter, and I think it's better for the game as well. Though some of the older guys might not want those changes, I'm sure. Let's talk about another change, the pitch clock, right? So, there's definitely positives and negatives, right, for the offensive player and the I guess you could call it defensive player, right? The pitching staff and the guys, across the diamond. But, is there any what was the biggest adjustment for you? I mean, you can only throw over so many times now,
Yeah.
like was it the clock actually, like, is your routine messed up? I mean, it took a while to see some guys adjust. How did you adjust, and what was the biggest part of that adjustment?
I think the biggest part was just getting the flow back because they introduced it to us in spring training of 2023.
Mm,
So we got the month and a half of games where you get used to it. You can, still be penalized, but it wasn't the extent of being in a regular season game to where those wins and losses are people are counting on you. So they gave us the opportunity to just adjust. I would say that was just the biggest part was understanding that when you get the ball back, you don't have all time to mess around. You kind of have to get the ball back, get your sign with the pitch com we use, and understand and commit to that pitch. Um, Especially with runners on base because that time goes quick as well. But you can use it to your advantage as well. If you have runners on base, you could time the clock and pick off a guy that was looking to get an extra lead or was looking to take off at zero. So it definitely brought an adjustment period to the game, but I think it was a good adjustment and it keeps fans and players engaged, which was the end goal.
sure. Yeah, games definitely seem to go by quicker. As a viewer, the only thing that sucks is when you get to the stadium. I feel like I always try not to go get something at a concession stand because by the time you sit back down, you feel like you might lose like an inning or two, because
Yeah.
it goes by so much faster. But it's nice to see, guys like yourself enjoy and appreciate the adjustment. I know it was a hot topic for a while. You've experienced being traded two times in your career. Once when you were with the Reds, then when you were with the Dodgers. Now you're home here with Washington, and you've been here for a decent amount of time now. Did it feel easier the second time around getting moved? And how does your family, your fiance, obviously there's nerves and trying to calm those down, but did it get any easier the second time?
Um, the second time it was during the deadline of 2021. So it was in the back of your mind,
Sure.
but I wouldn't say it got any easier because it's still hard to, just uproot yourself in the matter of days and go to a different city. The first time was in the off season of 2018, and it was pretty much business as usual. It was like, okay, I still will report to minor league spring training in February, and I'll just be suiting up for a different team and get to work under their supervision. So in that regards, it was a little easier the first time just because I could get my bearings. The second time was a little more difficult because of just uprooting yourself over the course of a few days and going from LA to DC. It was just long flight and figuring out what I was going to do with my stuff in AAA. The little things that I guess doesn't get thought about as much,
Yeah.
but there's stressors on you that you have to make sure are taken care of on top of obviously preparing to pitch baseball games and be prepared for you know every outing from that standpoint on.
Sure. I mean, I guess it was probably a nice thing for you to come back to at least the East Coast, right? I mean, you were in Ohio, which is a different time zone. Then you go over to Pacific Standard over in LA. At least, coming back to the side of the country that you grew up in, right, was probably a nice adjustment. But yeah, I can imagine it's probably tough. One more question: when it comes to being a pro athlete, right? You've been playing, fantasy football for 2 years now, and so how as an athlete you can kind of relate to the guys that you're now putting in your lineup and hoping that they play well, right? And you see online tons of people, whether they send negative comments to players and they get upset about the end result, right? does it give you different perspective, right? Because now you're kind of on the side of it as a fan, and like how you can kind of relate to those players.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think, with being in the fantasy football life, I guess, and understanding that there's, you have to think about the players as people as well. And, being a pro athlete, if you play poorly, you get negative messages, unfortunately. And I always empathize, with those guys and with baseball players as well, because, our jobs aren't easy, and there's a lot that comes with it that, people think, out of 30 starts for a pitcher, all 30 are supposed to be, perfect and things like that. But that's just not the way the world and the game works.
Sure.
So understanding that and putting it in the football lens, a quarterback that's a stud is going to have a down game. He might not hit the yards prop you may have.
Sure.
So it's just understanding, like, there's still people, like, people have down games, and I understand, there's a lot of money on the line. There's a lot of, bragging rights and cred on the line, but it's understanding their people and understanding that there's more to it than just the money on the line. It's just being a little bit more empathetic and understanding everyone's situation, and that the person didn't want to lose your prop on purpose. It's just the way the game goes sometimes. And, we just have to understand those situations as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I like you said, I mean, nothing is perfect. You see people that put betting props out and they say, this is the lock of the day, and, this is going to hit and this and that. I mean, there's so many other factors, and, even analytics in baseball, right? Like it's to give you an educated guess, but we have no idea what's going to actually transpire on the field. This person might actually show up and not feel well one day, or, maybe there's something going on where there was an adjustment, and maybe a guy got phased out of the game plan because the defense, decided they were going to change up what the offense was expecting. So, yeah, there's a lot of things, but it's nice to hear your perspective on it, right? As somebody who's now kind of been able to see it on both sides. But that's going to do it for us, guys. Josiah, I appreciate your time, man. Maybe we'll get
Absolutely.
you on sometime later on in the future. But thank you so much for jumping on, and good luck with the rehab, man. And we're looking forward to seeing you get back out there.
Appreciate that, man. Thank you for having me on.
All right, man.